Hey guys, Harris Rubenstein here for Chat Sports. The NBA trade deadline is right around the corner. I can't believe it's almost already here. So we're going to go through 7 players who are likely to be shipped at the deadline this year. Now, the Grizzlies kind of threw a wrench into our plans after they announced that Mike Conley and Marc Gasol are going to get traded. But we have them both listed on this list. However, I only think one of them is going to end up getting moved. But we want to hear from you guys in a little bit. But let's start in Orlando with Nikola Vucevic, who has had a career year so far, averaging 20 points per game and 12 rebounds. He'd be a great piece for just about any contender who needs some help down low. He isn't the greatest on the defensive side of the ball, and that's kind of where his difficulties begin. But he's a great offensive player down low. Kind of really a throwback to the olden days of the NBA. And it just kind of makes you think, is there a specific team out there that could use someone? Is there a team that might zig when the rest of the NBA is zagging? So here are 3 teams that could target Nikola Vucevic. Now, the first is the Milwaukee Bucks. This one's an easy one. They don't really have a threat down low. I mean, John Henson's been pretty nice since they let Greg Monroe go. The Thon Maker hasn't been great. What's been a revelation this year for the Bucks has been Brook Lopez. And with how great he's been from the three-point arc, I think bringing in Vucevic could actually be really helpful for the Bucks with maintaining a high-low concept with Brook Lopez and Nikola Vucevic. Not to mention, they've done that before with having 2 bigs on the floor with the rest of the roster running around them. Remember, their coach is Mike Budenholzer, who was the head coach of that Hawks team that was able to have Paul Millsap and Al Horford on the floor at the same time. 2 actually pretty similar players to Brook Lopez and Nikola Vucevic, just in terms of play style, maybe not in terms of overall eliteness around the NBA. The number 2 team is the Portland Trail Blazers. Maybe Portland would be interested in moving on from Zach Collins to bring in a more certifiable NBA veteran. They've been looking for a third guy between McCollum and Damian Lillard for, good God, at least 5 years now or something. So Vucevic could be a nice player for them, also with the second year on that contract. And last but certainly not least, how about the Spurs? I told you, when the rest of the league wants to zig, the Spurs are usually the one that zag, and adding Nikola Vucevic and putting him next to LaMarcus Aldridge along with DeMar DeRozan is really zigging when the rest of the league is zagging. So I could see the Spurs making a run at Vucevic, but we know the Magic are shopping him, especially with the most recent draft pick of Mo Bamba. And no, I mean the player, not the song. The song sucks. Let's go on to the next player here. How about Enes Kanter, the center for the Knicks, who has honestly been involved in more political drama this year than basketball drama, which is a shame because he was actually playing quite well for the Knicks before they put him on the bench. That's really the problem, is that he was too good this year for the Knicks, and they realized, hey, we need to tank. We can't play you anymore. However, with Luke Kornet coming out that he has an ankle injury that's going to sideline him for a considerable amount of time, I wonder if the Knicks are actually going to bench/trade Kanter. However, every conversation he's had with David Fizdale in the front office so far is, hey, we're trading you, we're going to bench you, we can't play you, you're simply too good. So here are a couple teams that could target Kanter. Remember, he has another year next year in terms of a player option of $18 million that could get bought out just in case. We have the Atlanta Hawks as a team, just as a kind of a salary dump, get a little talent on the Hawks, maybe give Kanter an opportunity to show off his talents to the rest of the NBA in a contract year. Got the Charlotte Hornets at number 2, simply because he'd be a good player for them to give to Kemba Walker. Just, he's not a great player on the defensive side of the ball, but they have no one else on their team that can score except for Kemba Walker. So I think Kanter would actually help them out a lot. And last but not least is the Sacramento Kings. I think that would be the perfect landing spot for him. It would be a really good combo between him and Willie Cauley-Stein. Cauley-Stein isn't the best on the offensive side of the ball, and Kanter is. They actually play off each other quite well. And also, it would give the Kings a really good big off the bench that they haven't had in a really, really long time. But now that they're making a push for the playoffs, Kanter could be a really perfect piece for them to maybe sneak into a 7 or 8 seed. Though, he really has to get some of this political stuff figured out. I wonder if NBA teams are going to be scared of moving on from it, or moving to get him if he's getting extradited by Turkey. I don't know. Might be even question mark. Let's go to J.R. Smith. He hasn't really played at all this season. It's not a big surprise because when he was playing, he was awful. And it's also no surprise that the Cavs have had difficulty finding a trade partner because he's owed a lot of money. he's kind of old, and he's not very good anymore. Usually those are the three combination of things that make you really difficult to trade in the NBA. But J.R. Smith still has a lot of playoff experience, obviously won an NBA Finals, has been to 4 straight, so the dude understands how to win in the playoffs. I actually think he'd be a nice pickup for really any team that is looking to target more shooting off the bench. And obviously the number one team that you have to look at are the Houston Rockets. Now, I understand that James Harden's on fire right now, and maybe you don't want to add a J.R. Smith to the mix to maybe mess things up, but Eric Gordon's having an awful season. And we already saw that if the Rockets just bring in guards who can shoot, i.e. in Austin Rivers, the system just kind of works around them. Austin Rivers has actually been really good since he went to Houston, though I'm pretty sure half the reason people hate Austin Rivers is because of his last name. If his last name was Smith and his name was Austin Smith, no one would give a crap about him. But since he's Doc Rivers' son, people are all up in arms. I think the New Orleans Pelicans could also be a good spot for J.R. Smith, though. With the new injury to Anthony Davis, I wonder how much they actually want to invest in veteran talent. And then last but not least, just for some S's and G's, how about the Los Angeles Lakers as an option for J.R. Smith, just so we can reunite the old buddies of LeBron James and J.R. Smith. J.R. will most likely end up getting traded or bought out by the Cavs and getting shipped to a playoff team. Let me know in the comment section below who will trade or sign, if he gets bought out, J.R. Smith. I think the Rockets are the perfect landing spot for him. Watch out for a return to the Denver Nuggets as well if Isaiah Thomas cannot get his play back up to what it once was. They could be looking for a little scoring off the bench. One other thing I wanted to mention about this Houston Rockets season and why I think they might make a move for J.R. Smith is mostly because I think that James Harden is going to start slowing down any month now. Whether it's February, maybe start slowing down in March, it's going to happen. And once James Harden slows down, they're going to have to bring in someone like a J.R. Smith in order to make up in the deficiency of his scoring. Now, as you guys saw there on your screen, we have a great over-under on BetDSI right now if you guys want to go bet on it. It's an over-under of what James Harden's total points per game are going to be at the end of the season. An over of 37.1 currently has odds of plus 100, and under 37.1 is sitting there at minus 130. Now, the last player to average over 37 points a game was Wilt Chamberlain. That was a long, long time ago. Michael Jordan averaged 35 a couple times, as did Kobe Bryant, averaged 30 twice. But 37.1 is a huge number that James Harden is actually getting pretty close to. So that plus 100 isn't a terrible idea. But if you're like me and you think that James Harden is going to start slowing down pretty soon, go put some money on that under 37.1 at only minus 130 odds. That's a pretty good bet to put some money down on. And again, chatsports.com/bet. Use that promo code NBA120 for a 120% deposit bonus. Go put some money down on James Harden hitting that under on 37.1. You can make yourself some pretty fine money. Think about it this way. If you put some money down on James Harden to win the MVP and also parlay it with him getting the under on 37.1 points per game, you can make some pretty good cash by the end of this NBA season. So again, chatsports.com/bet. Use that promo code NBA120. Actually, I really like that parlay. I'm going to do that after this. All right, let's talk about our next player here. How about JABARI Parker, who, look, he's back in the rotation, finally. Thank you, Jim Boylan, for putting the second best scorer on the whole team back in the rotation. He could be a really nice get for a title contender. Maybe not on the defensive side of the ball because, as he said multiple times before, he doesn't play defense, but on the offensive side of the ball, he could be a great stretch for just about any contender in the NBA. Averaging 15 points a game along with 6 rebounds. He's a good enough three-point shooter for a guy of his size. As well, he does have a little bit of experience playing in big games as well. One of the biggest high school recruits ever, one of the biggest college recruits ever. Obviously, injuries and kind of team fit have really, I want to say, blown apart his NBA superstardom chances. I thought JABARI Parker was going to be an absolute stud, but Milwaukee didn't do a lot for him, and neither did Chicago. So here are a couple teams that could target JABARI Parker. The reason we have the Knicks at number 1, despite my pleading that the Knicks don't need to make this move, the idea right now is that the Knicks and the Bulls are talking about a trade that would send JABARI Parker to the Knicks and send Enes Kanter to a third team. So there's a three-team trade, kind of swirling around right now. between the Bulls, the Knicks, and a mystery team to get Kanter out of town and to bring JABARI to New York. So that's an option. I think the Utah Jazz would also be a great option. Look, Derek Favors is bad. That dude sucks. I think Jabari Parker could be a really good offensive powerhouse for a Utah team that just needs more scoring. They just need more people to put the ball in the net. They just don't have enough. And I think that Jabari Parker do a great job of countering with Derek Favors. And then the Atlanta Hawks, because why the hell not? The Atlanta Hawks certainly need a little bit more talent, and I think they could end up being a nice recipient for a salary dump if they can get a nice draft pick out of it. Let's talk about Wayne Ellington with the Miami Heat before we get to our compadres on the Grizzlies. Wayne Ellington's a guy who I thought should have gotten traded for about 3 straight years now, despite the fact that the Heat are just holding on to him for dear life for no reason. They have a real issue with signing veterans, not playing them, and when those veterans get angry and want to trade, just not doing anything about it. This is like the 3rd or 4th player that they've done this to. They did it to D. Wade a couple years ago. They've done it to Hassan Whiteside for 3 straight years now, and now they've done it to Ellington for a 2nd year in a row, where they sign him to a decent contract, promise him playing time, don't play him at all, and then get kind of angry when he asks for a trade. I don't know what the Miami Heat are doing. I think that Pat Riley has lost his damn mind over these past couple of years. The amount of money that he's given out to bad players, we need to start really asking ourselves if Pat Riley is actually a good NBA GM anymore. But here are a couple teams that could target Wayne Ellington. Just a good 3-point shooter to come off the bench. He's nothing overly special. He's basically Kyle Korver at this point in his NBA career without the NBA legend Kyle Korver side of things. I think the Thunder could be a great destination for Wayne Ellington. They need a little 3-point help off the bench. Again, if Isaiah Thomas isn't good enough for the Nuggets, they could also make a run at Ellington. I like the Kings also. Remember, between the Kings and the Nuggets, those are 2 of the 5 youngest teams in the NBA. Maybe getting a little veteran help in a Wayne Ellington could end up solidifying their roster. But as of right now, Ellington's still on the Heat, but don't be surprised if he gets moved in the next couple of weeks. If you guys want to look as good as I do on air, there's only one way, and no, it's not to get curly hair. It's to go to Mizzen and Main. Go to www.comfortable.af to get your Mizzen and Main shirt today. It's chilly all across the country, and they have plenty of clothes for you guys to bundle up in this winter, and also open up in the spring as well. So again, if you're looking for the most comfortable dress shirts that you will find anywhere out there, head to www.comfortable.af, because man oh man, these shirts are comfortable as F. All right, let's get into the Memphis Grizzlies, because they finally listened to me and are finally going to trade either Marc Gasol or Mike Conley, or hell, both. Let's start with Marc Gasol though. As of right now, he is a player option for $25+ million next season. So far this year, he has been Jekyll and Hyde. And when he's one of the best centers in the NBA. But recently, he has been quite bad. He has been really, really bad the last 2 months, and it has totally tanked his stats. Currently not even averaging a double-double on a nightly basis, only 15 and 8 and 5. Obviously, those assist numbers are great, but the 3-point shooting numbers are down. The points per game is down, as are the rebounds per game. For me, he just seems like a guy who at this point at his age needs to be on a more talented team in order to get his stats to where they need to be. So, with that being said, here are a couple teams that could target Marc Gasol. If I'm the Los Angeles Clippers, I am running to the phone and asking for Marc Gasol. Dude has 2 years left on his contract. If you bring him in, you could ship out enough money where you're still going to have enough for a max deal next offseason to give it to Kevin Durant or Kawhi Leonard or whoever the hell the Clippers want to sign this week. So here's a trade between the Clippers and the Grizzlies that I think would end up working. So the Grizzlies get Marcin Gortat, Jerome Robinson, who will be trade eligible by the deadline, Milos Teodosic, and a 2019 second-round pick. The Clippers do not have their first-round pick this year. That is going to the Boston Celtics. Ironically, so is the Memphis Grizzlies pick. So the the Clippers would receive Marc Gasol and a nice backup point guard in Shelvin Mack. This would make the money work. I also think the Grizzlies are getting a nice package back. with Marcin Gortat, who's a nice expiring contract. They get a good young player in Jerome Robinson, who they can really mold into a nice player if they choose to keep Mike Conley. Milos Teodosic is a nice backup point guard in the NBA, and that 2019 second-round pick. You can never have enough second-round picks if the 76ers have taught us anything. So let me know in the comment section below who says no to that one. I know people are going to look at that and say maybe the Grizzlies are a little bit light here on what they're returning, but again, with how bad of a season Gasol is having right now, and with how likely he is to opt into his player option next season, that definitely hurts his trade value. So I don't think his return is going to be that great. Another team for him are the Kings or the Spurs. Just two natural fits for the way that Marc Gasol plays basketball. I'd love to see De'Aaron Fox and Marc Gasol, though I don't think him and Cauley Stein could be on the floor at the same time. Let's talk about Mike Conley. Finally healthy, having a fantastic season, but he is probably going to be the most expensive player at the deadline this year in terms of realistic trade possibilities. Obviously, if Anthony Davis was getting traded at the deadline, he'd be the most expensive trade candidate, but he's not going to get traded at the deadline, so don't nitpick. But anyway, with Mike Conley, he will likely get traded at the deadline. And I think between Marc Gasol and Mike Conley, Conley is going to be the one that ends up getting moved. He has the most money on his deal and the longest period of time on it. He still has 3 years left at least $30 million every single year. So we know that the Grizzlies really want to get out from under that deal, despite the kind of leader and player that Mike Conley has been for the Memphis organization the past couple of years. So let's talk about the Detroit Pistons at number 1 in terms of teams that could target Conley at the deadline. Pistons are number 1 for me for 2 reasons. A, desperate need of point guard, and B, they've already tried to trade for him once. They tried to trade for him 2 years ago, weren't able to get it done. Conley ends up signing the crazy max extension with the Grizzlies and hasn't been healthy for the 2 years since he signed that contract. We know that the Pistons have gone through some shifting in their front office, but ironically, Mike Conley would be the perfect fit on this Pistons team if they can make the money work. So here is my trade possibility for Mike Conley to the Pistons. Grizzlies get Reggie Jackson to replace him at point guard, Luke Kennard, a nice young player, Stanley Johnson, a guy who they can mold into someone that the Pistons just have not really been able to do, and also a 2019 first-round pick, because as I said before, the Grizzlies do not have a first-round pick. That pick is currently going to the Celtics, unless it's, I think, one of the top 6 picks in the draft. But what the Pistons get, they get Mike Conley and JaMychal Green to make the money work out. And all of a sudden, the Pistons have Mike Conley, Andre Drummond, and Blake Griffin, which I hope is enough to make it to the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. But that's just the Detroit Pistons for you. Always undershooting their expectations. It'd be a nice trade for the Pistons, though, if they were able to get Conley. I just wonder if the Grizzlies are receiving enough in this trade to really pique their interest. Pacers there at number 2. Mike Conley's from Indiana. Be a great homecoming for him. And then the Dallas Mavericks. I put there at 3 only because, if the Dallas Mavericks are still wanting to move on from Dennis Smith Jr., the Grizzlies would take him and trade them Mike Conley in a heartbeat. I actually think that'd be a great trade. Mavericks get Mike Conley to put next to Luka Doncic and Harrison Barnes over the next couple of years, and the Grizzlies get Dennis Smith Jr. to pair up with Jaren Jackson Jr. over the next couple of seasons. Doesn't sound like a bad move, but I don't think there's much interest on both sides. Let me know in the comment section below. Who will the Grizzlies trade? Give me a G from Marc Gasol, give me a C from Mike Conley, or hell, give me a B for both. I think they're only going to trade one of them. I just don't think the Grizzlies have the cojones to trade both of them. It's just, that's a lot to trade both cornerstones of your franchise on huge contracts. That's a hard thing to ask of one GM. I think Conley's on his way out, but let me know in the comment section below who you think the Grizzlies are going to trade.